Ladies and gentlemen, the Champions League is back, and today we were given a blockbuster tie between two European giants to kick us off on our quarterfinal quest. And I have to say, Arsenal versus Sporting also played at the same time. But let's start with Bayern Munich versus Real Madrid, right? Two teams that have had very different seasons, two sides that are massive European institutions, but come into this game in very different situations. But over 90 minutes, I have to say, as a neutral, this did not disappoint. This was one of the best games between two top sides that I have watched all year long. It had everything you can think of and more, whether it was goals, whether it was drama, whether it was incredible saves, whether it was incredible moments, players showing up, drama towards the end, and it is all to play for in the second leg. So if you love football, I know for fans of each team, you might have had a heart attack watching these games, but if you were just trying to watch a great game today, you definitely got it if you watched Real Madrid versus Bayern Munich today. Now, Bayern Munich walk away from the first leg with a 2-1 win, and it's a narrow advantage that they can take back to Munich. But I think they probably deserve it on the overall manner of the game. Real Madrid missed their opportunities for sure, but if I look at the entire 90-minute game from start to finish, I think Bayern Munich were the better side. Now, how the game started off was pretty much how most people would have expected it to, right? Bayern on the ball, Real Madrid in their block, just waiting to pounce on the counterattack. Bayern have this incredible ability of just keeping the ball for what seems like hours and just leaving defenders with their head on a swivel 360 degrees all game long, just watching the ball pop back and forth, side to side, through the lines. It moves so quickly and more importantly, in my opinion, vertically under Bayern Munich. Every pass feels like it has substance. It feels like it has meaning behind it. It's not just a pass for the sake of keeping the ball. It's always a pass with the intention of hurting the opposition. That's what I love watching about Bayern Munich so much. It's the most, or at least it's up there with the most positive football you can watch in Europe right now. And then when you combine that mentality from Kompany, that ideology from Kompany, that's how he wants his teams to play, combine that with the quality of players that Bayern Munich have, and it leaves you watching one of the best shows on earth. And at times, that's what it felt like I was watching with Bayern today. I can basically give plaudits to everybody. I thought Bayern played really, really well today on the ball. And I think the number one player you have to talk about today is Michael Olise. Michael Olise, you have arrived. Well, no, you've been arrived. Let me make that very, very clear. You have arrived for the last 2 seasons now. But there's been a section of football fans that don't watch Michael Olise as much now that he's left the Premier League, and when they hear his name mentioned with their favorite right wingers, question his credentials and question if he actually has done it on a stage that is basically equivalent to one of the best players in the world. Well, today, that task arrived in the form of Real Madrid at the Bernabeu. There is no bigger task on earth than playing Real Madrid in the Santiago Bernabeu. And Michael Olise turned one of the most storied football grounds in the history of the game into his personal dance floor. He turned it into his playground. And the victim today.
Call an ambulance, but not for me.
Alvaro Carreras. My word. What Michael Olise has done to Alvaro Carreras today should be illegal in 50 different countries. It should be. It's not humanly right what Olise did to Carreras today. That right there was traditional winger versus fullback schooling, barbecue chicken. Olise did things to Carreras today that were reminiscent of like Dino versus Ramos in 05. That might sound like an exaggeration, but seriously at times, it felt like that was what I was watching. Carreras did not stand a chance against Michael Olise. And you want to talk about passing an audition with flying colors in the eyes of people who need to see Olise do it in big Champions League games to really validate what he's doing? That is an audition passed with flying colors. Michael Olise showed anyone today who hasn't been watching him enough over the last 2 years that if you didn't rate this guy as one of the best players in the world flat out, you are nothing more than a fool. And I was watching CBS after because I really love listening to Henry. For me, I don't know. I just think he gives such great insight. He gives insight that only a real world-class player could really pinpoint. And he said something today that, like, when he says it, you look and you're like, well, obviously, yeah, I can't believe I didn't even really see it. And it's Olise, every time he gets the ball, it's his body positioning. He touches the ball, and immediately his entire body is squared up to his fullback. And that might sound like common sense. That might sound like what the job description of a winger should be. But I think both you and I know that in 2026, That doesn't happen anywhere near enough. How often do you see wingers receive it with their back to goal just to go straight back to the fullback, or receive it side on, almost body on the line, facing the side of the pitch, playing it inside? Very rarely do you get it and Olise receives it, and the first thing is immediately full body facing his fullback with the intention of running at him. For a defender, that's mind games right there, because you know there's no chance that you have a possession off. You know there's no chance that you're going to be able to take a minute off from your winger. Every time he gets the ball, his one thought is, I'm going to run at you. And with Olise, he can run at you on the outside, he can run at you on the inside. And he's so deceptive. He's so manipulative. He literally reads your actions. He reads your feet. And the minute you only slightly commit, left or right, he's gone. He's so quick, man. So quick, so skillful, and he plays with such a carefree attitude. He plays with such a joy, also plays with such a swagger to him, that when he plays like this, I'm sorry, he's one of the best shows on earth. What a performance for Michael Olise today. And only thing that was really missing from today's game was a goal, because the amount of times the guy cut in and beat two, left three in the ground, just to I don't know, his shot goes over the bar narrowly. That's maybe the only shame today, but grabbed his assist for Harry Kane's goal so well, laid it off perfectly to him, and just in general was an absolute nuisance to anybody who tried going up against him, let alone Alvaro Carreras. But wow, that was one of the best performances from an attacking player in big Champions League games this season that we have seen. So Michael Olise, today the game is yours. But this was very, very interesting to watch at the start, right? Because Bayern grabbed their goal through Luis Diaz. It was a fantastic bit of play. Harry Kane holding up the ball perfectly, so well, to play it into Serge Gnabry. Delightful pass in behind. Alvaro Carreras kept the entire Bayern attack onside, and Luis Diaz running in behind beautifully finishes it past Lunin, who was in place for the injured Courtois today. 1-0 to Bayern Munich, and you have to say at that point, deserved. It had been very back and forth. Bayern had chances. Upamecano on a set piece. Mbappe on the other end, and Vinicius Jr. testing Neuer. But overall, I think 1-0 was deserved. And we got into halftime, 1-0 up to Bayern, but still enough in the game that either side could still grab it. And you thought to yourself, okay, Real Madrid, get off to a good start in the second half, and this can be very, very interesting. But what did they do instead? They got off to the worst start you can ever imagine. 29 seconds after the second half commenced, and it was 2-0 to Bayern. Again, the aforementioned Michael Olise cutting in, drifting inside, gliding damn near to play it into Harry Kane, who I think is another one that I've been really waiting to see. That big, big moment at Bayern that just puts the entire world on notice. He scored so many goals over the last 2 or 3 seasons, but that big goal that almost makes you sit back and say, whoa, wow, that's arguably the best player in the world doing something. Harry Kane grabbed his goal in vintage Harry Kane fashion. People will say, should Lunin have really got a stronger hand on that one? And maybe you could argue that, but I think Kane, again, uses his defender as a disguise almost on his shot to make it so last minute for Lunin to see. Places it really well. It's not the most powerful shot, so maybe could you argue Courtois would have saved it? Potentially. I think he's the best goalkeeper in the world, so he's always got a shot. But Harry Kane grabbed the second, and it felt at that point that this could really run away in Bayern's favor, because the way they just held onto the ball from that point on and had Real Madrid chasing shadows, it felt like this could get ugly. Now, Real Madrid definitely had chances. I'm not going to pretend like they weren't in this game whatsoever, because they were. And the guy who the chances were mostly falling to was the same guy that on Saturday, the chances were falling to as well too. Kylian Mbappe. We talked about his performance against Mallorca and the big chances he missed. And it felt like it was going to be a similar kind of game for him against Bayern today, because anytime Real Madrid had any kind of success breaking down Bayern and sending balls in behind to trouble their back line, it almost felt like Kylian Mbappe was always the guy receiving them. There was one in the first half where on the left-hand side, he got it from, was it Fede or Vinny, and tried going across, and Neuer came out. There was another one on the right-hand side where the angle was really tight, but Manuel Neuer yet again denied him. And in the second half, it just became more and more a case of the Neuer versus Mbappe fight. Like it became like a straight up battle between the two of them. Mbappe had the biggest chance, I think, when he received the ball on the left-hand side in that area that where you feel like he likes that more than anything. And he tried bending it across goal into the far corner just wide, and it just felt like it wasn't going to be Mbappe's day. Until Trent Alexander-Arnold, who defensively maybe didn't have the strongest game, but going forward had some fantastic passes in behind that reminded you of his quality, played a beautiful whipped-in pass to the far post where Kylian Mbappe, I'm sorry, could not miss today. If he misses that one, I'm sorry. Brahim Diaz making sure it just goes over the line. But that one had to be a goal. But the fact I'm even saying this all about Kylian Mbappe is because one man was on a one-man mission, literally, to stop Real Madrid from scoring today. And that was 40-year-old Manuel Neuer. 40-year-old Manuel Neuer. This guy is 40 years old. And I understand goalkeepers age differently to outfield players. They typically last a lot longer than outfield players. But my God, Manuel Neuer, if ever you needed a performance to remind the entire world why you just might be the greatest goalkeeper to ever lace him up, this was that performance. Manuel Neuer was, for me, at the top of world football when it came to goalkeeping. Probably from 2011 to what, 2020? 2021 maybe? Like a decade or so at the top. But at the top in a way we had never seen before. This guy redefined goalkeeping. He revolutionized the position. And as an Algerian, I can say that standing 10 toes down, because what I saw in 2014 still gives me nightmares to this day. Manuel Neuer almost single-handedly knocked out Algeria in the World Cup in 2014. It still gives me heart palpitations. But the amount of big games in the Champions League in particular, where Neuer has just almost felt like a literal wall to opposition attackers, is too many to count. You combine that with his ball-playing ability, which I think completely changed the game. You combine that with his sweeper-keeper actions. You combine all of that, and you get what I consider to be the greatest goalkeeper of all time. Give Buffon his flowers. Give Iker Casillas his flowers. Check. Courtois is making a push for me to be one of the best I've ever seen. And you guys know I don't like talking about goalkeepers. I famously got a vendetta against them. I think goalkeepers, we talk too much about them. But this brother right here, Manuel Neuer, take a bow. The greatest to ever do it. And at 40 years old today, he reminded us just why that is. The amount of saves on like world class in their prime attackers that he continued to pull out time and time and time today. 9 saves. 9. No, I'm not saying that because he's German. 9 saves. Neuer, man. I'll never forget you. I will never forget you, bro. And every year they try and bring a new GOAT contender. Oh, Alisson. Oh, Courtois. Look, those are some all-time great goalkeepers. But show some respect. Show some respect to the greatest who's ever done it, man. Manuel Neuer, absolute monster in goal today. Now, towards the end of the game, it almost felt like a basketball match, right? It almost felt like it was just going back and forth. Musiala missed the big chance today. On the other end, Mbappe almost found the back of the net from distance. But I think the moment that I'm really looking at today, and I'm thinking, could that be one that Bayern look back at and think, did that knock us out? In the final moment, Michael Olise was basically tumbled over from behind in the penalty box. And on second replay, looked like a valid penalty shout. Honestly, I think Olise has a shout to win a penalty there. And the referee didn't give it. Now, if Bayern failed to qualify from this, first and foremost, they'll have to lose the second leg. But this is going to be one of those moments I think they look back at and complain about. And if you remember 2 years ago, when Real Madrid won the Champions League in 23-24, and it was, who was it? Oh, they beat Bayern in the semifinal. I think it might have been Matthias de Ligt in the final moments that yet again was denied a clear-cut penalty. And I think that's another one that's completely gone out of people's memories. But could this be another one? Because Real Madrid, although I think they were outplayed today, I don't think they were the better team today. I think Bayern really put on a lesson at times. They've done enough to go into the Allianz next week with a real chance of progressing. 2-1 is not a safe score against Real Madrid. I'm sorry. It's not. Do I still favor Bayern? Yes, I do. I think they're the best team in the world. But Real Madrid, you cannot afford to leave these guys even a scrap. You can't even afford to give them an inch. They will take a mile. So that second leg next week is all to play for. But I have to say, this right here was what we want to see as football fans. This right here, if you're a football fan and you just watch this to be entertained, you come out of it with no complaints. Because I think, honestly, we have a right. Sometimes people say, oh, it's not up to you how teams play. You just got to sit there and watch it. But I'm sorry, unless your team is playing and at that point all you want to do is just win, if you're watching football to be entertained. You want to see a spectacle. You want to see players going out there and putting on a show. You want to see managers and teams going out there to win. And honestly, maybe it's because I watch a lot of the Premier League, but I find that most Premier League big games are an absolute snooze fest because more often than not, it just comes down to both sides being too afraid to make any kind of mistake and leaving both teams too afraid to basically do enough to win, leaving it almost being a draw or like a 1-0. But these kinds of games where both teams are just going punch for punch, it felt like UFC, man. It felt like two heavyweight boxers going blow for blow, and whoever is basically standing after 90 minutes is the winner. And now we get a second round of it next week. That's what I love to see, man. That's what I love to see. But Real Madrid, they will have to do more next week for sure, because Tchouameni's out, which means that their entire midfield needs to be reconstructed. I really liked Jude's performance today. I thought Jude came on and really changed the game for Real Madrid. I'm sure he will start next week. I thought Mbappe, despite all the misses, was Real Madrid's brightest attacker, and I think Vinicius needs to do a lot more, especially up against Stanisic, who, no disrespect, but should be food for Vinicius Jr. Vinny needs to start looking at some of these fullbacks as almost disrespectful to play against. Stanisic is a fine defender, no doubt about it, but you're Vinicius Jr. Next week, you have to be, for me, a lot more decisive against that fullback than you were this week. I thought he was a little disappointing today. Thiago Pitarch, really bad mistake. I even failed to mention that in the first half. Gnabry had a huge chance off a sloppy Thiago Pitarch back pass. It was very similar to actually the first game against Manchester City at the Santiago Bernabeu, where Courtois denied, I think it was O'Reilly. But yeah, Pitarch, I'm not sure he'll be included in the starting 11 in the next leg. Yeah, I think Real Madrid, they need to take the positives from this game and run with it, because there were moments where they were really troubling Bayern, especially defensively. But they need to make sure that over 90 minutes, they have more of those moments, because overall, I thought Bayern, when they get into their groove on the ball, they can just keep the ball for hours, man. It's kind of a joke, man. Now, the other game, I'm not really going to talk much about it. I'm going to be honest. I started watching the first half alongside the Real Madrid game, but first and foremost, like I said, the Bayern Real game today was so good, so exciting, that I couldn't keep my eyes off it. But at the same time, that Arsenal Sporting game was the biggest snooze fest I think I've ever seen. That game stunk. That game stunk, man. So I didn't really pay attention to that game. I can't give you guys any kind of insight. I can't take away really anything. But Kai Havertz, final minute of the game. Amazing pass from Martinelli. Really big pass from Martinelli into Havertz. And it's Sporting, I think I read it was their first loss in 18 games at home in all competitions. So they've made that a bit of a fortress. And for Arsenal to come away with a 1-0 win, no matter how ugly it might have been, is a big, big result for them. But I think similar to Real Madrid Bayern, I'm not sure this tie is over. That's not to say I think Sporting is going to make a comeback. Arsenal are the favorites to advance, and I think they will. But when I watch the way Arsenal are playing of late, these guys can be got at. These guys are in a vulnerable moment, in my opinion, in their season. If Sporting are on it, this game is still there to be claimed. Will they? I don't know. But I don't actually think this tie is over just like that. It's a big win for Arsenal. It's a big advantage to take back to the Emirates. But I think these next 90 minutes will be interesting. We'll see. I predicted Bayern and Arsenal to go through, and I think I'm going to stick with that. But I think both legs have everything to play for. And tomorrow, we got two more great games as well, too. PSG versus Liverpool and Barcelona versus Atletico Madrid. Keep an eye out for that, guys. I will be doing my reviews on this channel as always. Let me know down in the comment section below what we learned, who stood out for you today. Like, share, subscribe, and I'll see you guys for the next day of Champions League tomorrow. Peace.